We are pushing on through. We're in a series called To Be Continued. So welcome to everybody that's in the room. Welcome to the crew that's on YouTube joining us this morning. We are making our way. Usually what happens in the church is you get through the Easter season by spending a lot of time following Jesus' ministry from the triumphal entry to the crucifixion, and then you get to Easter Sunday and the tomb is empty, he's risen, great, that's awesome, and then you moved on to something else. What we've done is said, why don't we spend a little more time in what happened right after that? Like what was the to be continued of the tomb? And we've been going through the story of Jesus and the disciples and things going on in Luke 24. Now, Luke 24, one thing to keep in mind here is we're talking about one day and a whole lot of stuff happens. So the day begins and it's really, really early, and the ladies go to the tomb and they're bringing their spices to do the thing that they would do because the Hebrews did not embalm their bodies. And so what would happen is somebody dies and they're going to smell, like very pragmatically. So they go to do their best to make it a place where people can still come and not feel like they have to be grossed out when they're there. So they bring all of these spices and they find the two lightning twins there that have their lightning clothes or whatever. And what's going on? He's not here. Well, no, he's not here. And the point is they say, and you should have known that because you've been walking with Jesus if you're talking like our own mental thought pattern, since chapter 8, we're in 24, you ladies have been hanging out for a while. And he said in chapter 9, the Son of Man has to be handed over. He has to be crucified, and he will be raised again. Like, you should have known these things, and they don't get it. And so they go back and they tell the other 11 and all the other disciples that are hanging out with them. We went to the tomb and the guys were there and they were like lightning, and then he wasn't there, and they said we should have known that. And the disciples are like, did you guys get too close to that myrrh and oil and the spices? Are you guys okay? Because that doesn't happen. You're not supposed to talk that way. But he's not there, and so Peter gets up and he runs back towards the tomb and he finds the strips of linen and that's it, and he walks away wondering what's going on. And Luke gives us a jump in the storyline, just like you would see when you're watching a TV show, when you're watching a movie where you see this scene and all of a sudden it fades out and you jump into another scene, which is the exact same day. Two people walking along the road, Cleo and his companion, very likely a spouse or a friend or a roommate of some sort. They're walking along, and here comes a guy that shows up, and they don't recognize him. Because if we think about it, how many times does God show up in your life and you didn't really see it until looking back and you go, oh. Jesus comes walking along and says, hey, what y'all talking about? What are we talking about? You don't know? There's like 1 million+ people in the city and everybody knows, and you're the only one that doesn't know? Remember, because they experienced that. They walked with Jesus, and they're not exactly happy about how that ended. You don't know what happened? Are you the only one? Oh. And then Jesus starts to teach them. And he shares the scripture through the books of Moses, through the prophets, and then they get to Emmaus, 7 miles away, keeping in mind that as they journeyed, they're not like Midwestern folks where we spend all winter long in the house all covered up or outside all covered up, that as soon as how many of you had significantly less clothes on yesterday outside than you do today? Yeah, as soon as the sun comes out, you're like, how can I get a tank top on? It don't matter if I feel like summer skinny or winter fat. We going outside to get some sun. Middle Eastern people weren't like that. Because the sun wasn't really a friendly thing, which most of you will realize, like First Service did, that once you turn 65 and you finally retire, then you go to the dermatologist and you come back and it's covered in all of these holes and covered in all of this red stuff, because they're like, well, the sun's not really your friend. It doesn't do good things to your body. So Middle Eastern people covered up. We think that only Islamic people wear turbans and cover their faces. No, everybody did. because the sun's rays beat down, the wind blew. You were walking 7 miles covered up, so they finally sit down at the table to eat, keeping in mind that Jesus was going to keep on going. What you should understand from that is he had opened the scriptures to them and said, this right here, that's all you need. I'm going to keep on going. That's all that you need. They asked him to stay. Wait, no, don't go. It's getting late. You should stay with us. And because those things that you were saying, you're kind of blowing our brains up a little bit, and we kind of starting to feel something, you should stay. They stay, they recline at the table. Remember, we talked about reclining. We don't sit like good people do now with your all 4 on the floor and your feet and your hands and your elbows not on the table. I grew up in the South, and you got whooped if you ate your food wrong, or if your elbows were up there, or if you leaned back in your chair, or any of those things. Now it's the irony of, we were having staff a couple weeks ago, and I was leaning back in my chair. This is a tangent. I'm sorry. You don't need to remember any of this. I'm leaning back in my chair, and my foot slips off of the little metal bar, and my eyeballs gave the look of terror because I reached my hands out, and there was nothing around me, and Craig looks at me. He's like, "Ooh!" And then my foot hit the top of the table, and it was like, thud. Jesus didn't do that. They didn't sit that way. They sat on a hip or on their butt, and they reclined. They leaned on the table, and so they would be leaning without all of their walking garb on. And Jesus takes the bread, he blesses it, and as he shares it, suddenly he's not all covered up. They see something. What just happened? That's where we've come so far. We're going to pick up the story on verse 33. I'm going to pray, and then we'll jump in. Luke 24:33. Spirit, I ask that you would come and you would help to bring Luke's words to relevance, to life, to meaning within our hearts and minds. Help us to understand, speak clearly so that here, now, this moment, beyond the things we have going this afternoon, beyond the things that happened last week, beyond the things that we have yet to do this coming week, that you would help us just take a breath and breathe in your good words so that we can actually live and not run the race of life and the busyness and anxieties that holds, but that here now that you would speak and that your life-giving words would penetrate deep. So Spirit, come, and Jesus be our teacher. Amen. Luke 24, verse 33, we pick up Cleo and his companion have just seen Jesus poof disappear in front of them as he's handing them bread. And I insinuated to you that I think it's very likely that they saw the scars finally. Like the scars are now completely apparent to them. And we get here. So they got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. There they found the 11 and those with them assembled together, and saying, "It is true. The Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." And then the 2 told what had happened to them on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. While they were still talking about this, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were startled and frightened, thinking that they saw a ghost. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled? And why do doubts arise in your minds? Look at my hands and my feet. It is I myself. Touch me and see. A ghost does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." When he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they still did not believe because of joy and amazement, he asked them, "Do you have anything here to eat?" And they gave him a piece of broiled fish. And he took it and ate it in their presence. It's a nice afternoon. Windows are open. Hear a little bit of the outside. A little bit of Because it's nap time. Dad, we gotta tell you something. Dad, we gotta tell you, Dad. Shh. It's nap time. The floor is cold underneath the pacing back and forth. And there's a little light in the hallway, but the darkness in the room seems to kind of encroach in, and there's a struggle inside of what to do, of not to do, and do you call, do you not call? So you call. Of course you wouldn't answer. So you call again. I know it's 3 a.m, but you should at least have the decency to pick up your telephone. So you call again. Still nothing. You find your way down the steps, and you can already start to smell a little bit of must. And the door in front of you is not a big wooden door, it's an old metal door. Come around the corner and the smell gets a little stronger. You reach in and you dig for your keys. It's one where you can tell that the key's been duplicated a few times because you can feel every single tooth as it goes into the lock. You kind of shake it a little. Eventually the door opens. As you go to step in, there's an envelope on the ground. Pick it up. Look at it's got your name on it. So you do what every decent and normal human being does, is you go over to the desk and you take a scissors out to open the top. Thou shalt not stick your finger in and tear it all goofy. That's not allowed. Open it up and there's a bunch of money in there and a note. No, really? You can hear the sound. People are a little sweaty, and it's loud. You're at the gym, not a rave. For those of you that don't understand, it's because you've never been to the gym before. In front of you is a girl that's working out, and she has one of those nice sweatshirts with the thumb hole in it, so you can pull it up over the top and it covers up a little bit. She reaches forward and she's doing a row, and she pulls back, and as she stretches the hand out, you can see the 2-inch little scar. Comes back. She stretches it out. You can tell that there's more. A lot more. After a few weeks, you finally say, "Hey, why do you wear that sweatshirt all the time?" And it takes a long moment with a lot of silence. Puts her arm underneath, and the small 2-inch cuts go from the edge of her wrists all the way to inside her armpit. Both arms. Verse 33. Keep in mind, Cleo and his companion have just seen Jesus disappear from their eyes. Their hearts burned within them. So they got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. It's late in the day, for one. They've been traveling most of the day to get where they belong at Emmaus. And they go in and they're thinking, finally, a time to relax. It's been a rough day. It's been a rough sort of weekend. I just want to be at my house, want to have a little something to eat. Nope. At once, they got up and go back the 7 miles to Jerusalem. What do they find when they get there? There they found the 11 and those with them. Remember, there are other disciples besides the 11. This includes all of the ladies, not just the ones that you know. Tanner's eating cake in the back of the sanctuary. It was just one of those moments of, for those of you that know Tanner, he eats very intentionally. By intentionally, I mean really slow. And so the hand was very deliberate. Hey, feel no qualms if you got to use the bathroom and go get a plate full of something back there. You can always watch on YouTube later. So the 11 are there with them, assembled together, and they're saying, it's true. He appeared to Simon. Simon as in Peter. He appeared to Peter. We don't have Luke's account of what happened with Peter. We get that from the other Gospels where Jesus appears to Simon after he's come out of the tomb, seen the strips of linen, and he's like, I don't get it. But remember, they've just gone a full day's journey, almost got to eat a meal. Jesus disappears, so they get up and they run in and they're like, we got to tell you this is They had a story to tell. We were walking along the road, and this guy walked up, and we didn't know who he was, and I think it was Jesus, but maybe we weren't really sure. We didn't understand. He shared so many things, and something burned inside, and then we sat down to eat, and all of a sudden, it was him. It was totally him. But they don't get to say that. It's true. He appeared to Simon. See, this was me taking a little nap, and the kids coming in to tell me a story, and they both want to tell the story at the exact same time, but only one gets to. So you can put yourself in the shoes of the people that have been walking and running from Emmaus. They got a story to tell. They've just seen Jesus. They really want to say what they want to say, and they find out, oh, not yet. And those together were saying, it's true. The Lord has arisen, and he's appeared to Simon. Okay, now you guys can tell your story. Or any of you, are you campers? Camper, like you sit around the campfire and what happens is one person starts to tell a story, and that story turns into somebody else's story, turns into somebody else's story, turns into somebody else's story, and eventually the whole night is suddenly gone, and you told all these stories because all you're doing by that point is you're going, I totally got a story and I want to say it too, but I just have to wait patiently until you're done. That is what's happening here. They come back, they want to share their story, and they can't. They have to wait. Okay. Now, while they're talking, they're sharing their story, Jesus himself stands in their midst. And he says, peace be with you. Now, why would he say peace be with you? Because they're freaking out. Anybody else seen a dead person that ain't dead anymore? Do you know why that is? Because that doesn't happen. Like, we read over this stuff and you just take it for granted. You literally, our Midwestern ways, our scientific brains, set all of that stuff on pause and go, oh yeah, of course he was standing there. Not of course. He was just dead. Horribly dead. And now all of a sudden he's standing there and they're like, and now you know that maybe Simon is cool with it. Maybe Mary and some of the other ladies and Cleo and his traveler are like, I told you. And everybody else like, peace. It's okay. Jesus brings peace everywhere he goes. And then they started beginning to be frightened and they thought they saw a ghost. Well, why did they think they saw a ghost? Because you didn't see dead people stand back up and walk around. Why are you troubled? Why do doubts rise in your minds? Now, we read this and you go, oh yeah, I should have, hang on, press pause. Just think over to yourselves. I got to take a forgot my cake. Dr. Pepper, 0 sugar. Judy and Lizzie aren't here. No, I ain't that dumb. You see how many kids I got? I ain't gonna waste a can of soda. Why are you troubled? Doesn't mean, oh, what's wrong? Why are you agitated? Why, literally the word means something that's not in motion is now in motion and doesn't want to stop. Why are you agitated? If I open this, you'll see all the agitation, right? What's going on? What? Why do you have the conversation inside back and forth? Not, oh, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it, but here he is. I have to believe it. It should be there, and I'm so torn up inside it. I don't know how this is happening. Maybe you're here, maybe you're not. Are you a ghost? Are you real? My brain says that you can't be real, but you're here. Torn apart. I told you the story of my gramps, Good Sam nursing home, pacing back and forth in his little jail cell of a room, freezing cold floor because you always had to wear socks, little light out in the hallway. Kenny, this place is nuts. You've got to get me out of here. Couldn't stand it. Agitated, would never calm down. They called me and wanted to tell me, your Gramps is talking about Bible stuff, that he is Daniel in the Daniel times or something. Okay, let me talk to him. Gramps, what's this about Daniel? They got me in this weird place, in this weird room with this gross food that I'm not used to, just like Daniel. Oh, you think he's crazy? He's telling you exactly what he knows through and through. You see, the hard part for me that made me agitated and back and forth was when I had to go, okay, do we have to take him out of that home and put him somewhere else? Is he going to actually make it? The talk back and forth in your own head, the debate, the struggle, the doubt, the agitation because the thing that gets going doesn't really want to stop going once it gets going. You all have that. You start to obsess over something small and becomes something big, and then it becomes 15 different small little things that don't really matter. I do this with premarital counseling for everybody. You will have the moment where you go, oh, that drives me nuts, and you don't say anything. And so then your spouse, your fiance, does it over and over and over, and this could even be a friend at work, over and over and over until one day you just freak out on them. Why? Because 18 little things suddenly turn into one huge thing. Because we just get going. The anxiety and the trouble starts to agitate inside. Why are you troubled? Why are you got the blender on puree in your soul right now? Peace. Oh, now peace makes more sense. Now it really makes more sense. Look at my hands. Look at my feet. It is I. Touch me and see. Does a ghost have flesh and bone? Like this is a whole. Does a ghost, the words literally mean flesh, not like metaphysical, spiritual flesh, and bones, real bones. Touch it. I'm right here. Oh. And while they still didn't believe because of joy and amazement, you guys ever had the I don't believe it joy and amazement? I picked up. This was way back in the days of early church planting with the Crossing, where graduates, if you ever give me the I just don't have time and life is so hard talk, nah. I worked at the gym. I worked Landscape Garden Center. I worked at GNC slinging vitamins, and I worked at the church, and I went to seminary full time getting nothing but A's on everything because I was going to go to do a PhD. We were broker than broke. The church, all young people, was broker than broke. And we thought that maybe we wanted to do this adoption thing. Door opens, envelope with money for our home study inside that we were thinking, where the heck are we going to get this from? Is this really happening? Keep in mind that many of you come from churches or like people that have gone to seminary. I was at seminary with other people where they're like, oh, there was just such grateful people that they helped pay my way through seminary. I'm like, I got $80K sitting in a thing telling me I got to pay on that. Where are these people at? Oh, you're part of a church plant. There aren't any people with money in church plants, especially church plants with nothing but like 20-year-olds in it. Okay. So this was too good to be true, but it was. They did not believe out of joy and amazement. Your hand, the things that, this can't be true. Yes, it is. They can't believe out of joy and amazement because it's just like you. You have those moments where this is almost too good to be true. Is this real? Yes, it's real. Oh, and can I get some of that Long John Silver's over there, that fried fish you got? Keep in mind that Cleo and his companion, they got up from the supper table and ran all the way to Jerusalem. Like, this is one of those moments where Jesus is like, hey, fish and chips is my favorite. And they're like, well, my tummy's kind of growling, actually, now that you say that. You see, I told you the story earlier of when I was working at the gym, where I'm training one of these girls. We would do these in the summertime. I would train football players, basketball players, the girls' basketball team from Augustana for 8 weeks straight, where I'm just the drill sergeant that makes you feel really bad about yourself when you're there so that you feel really good about yourself later, and then it's okay to be mad at somebody else rather than yourself. But then the wintertime would come and we would do these like boot camp sort of things. Groups would come in and they would help. We'd work with trying to get you a meal plan and how to work out and some of these things, how to be more healthy. And so this girl was a friend of one of my coworkers. She was dating his brother, and she reaches out her hand on the row machine and I see it. Just a little line. Tiniest 1/16 of an inch little line. Took me like 3 weeks before I thought I had the open door where she would let me ask, what's with the sweatshirt? But she knew I was not saying, what's with the sweatshirt? She knew all the way up. Tiny little increments, the exact size of a razor blade. Something inside wants to come out. There's something not right that wants to come out. It just doesn't feel right inside. So, I said, Ann, do you think that's working? No, it doesn't work. I go, yeah, that should be obvious after the first few. I know. You see, here's where dots start to connect. Because if I ask you, oh, this one right here, I was cutting an orange at like 4 years old with a huge knife. Totally shouldn't have done that. This one right beside it, I was actually laying flooring and the little razor blade came back because I was dumb enough to cut towards me rather than away from me. The one on my chin, that's when I was pedaling down the big hill in Gastonia, North Carolina, 43 miles an hour before shoelace got caught. Tore all the bottom off. You see, every single scar has a story. Every single one. You have your own right now where you're thinking about, oh yeah, I got this one on my arm, I beat that one. I got this one back here, I got this thing on my leg, right? There's probably nobody in the room that doesn't have some sort of scar physically that you can go, oh yeah, remember this? But you also have them in here. The ones that nobody sees. The ones that when you get agitated want to come out. The ones that make you stir. And Jesus says, look at my hands. Look at my feet. You see these scars? They got a story to tell. And that story is not that really hurt and it didn't come out, that nothing got better. This is the story that I came and overcome the world, that literally the struggle, the all-pervasive thing, sin, the thing that we go, whatever, I don't know what that means. God says the dirt of the ground, the air that you breathe, the rocks, the trees, everything longs to be restored to communion with God. That means you too. Every scar you have now has a new purpose. Jesus says, what they meant for bad, I use for good. You know how many scars I have in my life? You can't see them all, but those help me to connect with people that go, I just wanted it to come out and it wasn't getting any better. You think you're alone? You think you don't have someone? Let me tell you. You see, now your scars aren't just a story of the things that are wrong or the things that didn't go well. They are the gateway into reconciliation, beginning to make things new, little by little. Paul says that you long to have this earthly tent be transformed into that building that God has prepared for you in heaven, that Jesus stands before them. Still with scars. Why? Because they mean something different than what they intended. You get to the end of that chapter and he says, you see that one who didn't know any sin, didn't even have any forethought or any idea of it because it was so foreign to him, Jesus, he became that. He didn't take it on. He didn't carry it. He didn't drag it along to the grave. He became all of it. So that his scars share a completely different story than they did 3 days earlier. That now your scars are the gateway into connecting with other people, that your stories of trouble and debate and agitation and the struggle that comes with that, those are the things that Jesus says, remember mine. Now the question is what comes next? They see the scars. He eats some food. They almost can't believe it. To be continued.